got loyalty, got royalty inside my DNA. I got cannabis, got war and peace inside my DNA. I got poison, pain, and joy inside my DNA. 死んだ天性 I was born in this is why I see that you live conception. I just think you would perform like this without you a new weapon. I know
Hey guys, if you haven't already, give the video a like, subscribe to my channel. This is a what if series and I'll be doing more down the road. Plus Ultra! Hey guys, and welcome back to What If Naruto Was Mitsuri's Reincarnation. Now you guys did a wonderful thing as getting the video to 90 likes. I appreciate that. Now let's see if we can reach this goal. If we can reach this goal, I promise you, I'll have part 3 out as soon as possible. And you would very much be interested in hitting that like goal because what's going to happen in part 3 is going to be very interesting. But part 2 is interesting nonetheless. Hey guys, it's Black All Might. So I want to let you guys know that right now, I'm going to put this part out. So what's going to become before this, I think, is what if Deku was Gojo's reincarnation. That's going to be part 2 to that video. And that's already overdue for part 2. But anyway, we left off with Naruto and them completing the bell test. We left off with Naruto telling Hiruzen to basically give them loads and loads and loads of D-rank missions. So they've been doing D-rank missions for a while. So this is going to prolong the story until we get to the Land of Waves arc. And the reason why I'm doing this because I want the team to basically be trained enough for this said scenario. So with that, Sasuke has been eavesdropping because Naruto seems a little too suspicious. Like she seems a little too weirdly, but not only has he been watching her train Sakura and saying that he's not interested in the breathing style, he's also been doing it secretly. Sasuke has been listening to Naruto explain total concentration constant and total concentration breathing. Now, this is where it comes into a flashback. No, Sakura, you're doing it all wrong. And she would say, Naruto, why would you hit me like that? And this is where Naruto would say, you're doing it all wrong. If you breathe in the wrong way, you could literally hurt yourself like you did the last 10 times. And Sakura would say, but this technique is so hard. I don't even know how you even managed to do this. And this is where Naruto would tell Sakura, total concentration breathing is something I came up with when I was 5 years old. I tried to tell you about it, but you seemed more interested. Well, it's like your focus was more somewhere else. And yes, Sakura and Ino, those three were just like thieves, neck and neck. It's going to be more touched upon on their relationship in the second episode if I didn't touch upon it that much in the first episode. So yeah, Sakura, Ino, and Naruto have a good friendship with each other. And the reason I did that is because Naruto being a girl would have attracted their attention. Well, their attention through many ways, but most likely she was alone. But yeah, she's attracted their attention on the, 6th year, but they didn't spend that much time together. But Naruto would often hang out with them. That's what attracted them to make that sister-like bond with each other. So yeah, Sakura. And plus, Naruto was more attracted, not like attracted in that way, but more like drawn to Sakura because of her pink hair. But both of them had pink hair, except for Naruto's hair had green, dyed green ends. Anyway, so let's get back to it. So Naruto would say, having this breathing style, having total concentration breathing at all, it's going to help you elevate Sakura. It's going to make you more stronger. It's basically going to make your training more easier than just going through the basics and having training all these years and years and years, which I can't help but understand that why did you do this to your body? Why aren't you eating a healthy diet? Are you eating less to make yourself look good for Sasuke? And Sakura would get red-faced by this and say, no, that's not the issue. And this is where Naruto would just have a very, devastating, a smile on her face saying, yes, it is. You like Sasuke. And Naruto would say to this that, Sakura, you need to stop your ambition or your run for Sasuke. And she would say, why is that? Because it's going to get you killed. The ninja world is unforgiving. It's not a place where friendship lies. If you go, where lovers like you lies. You could get killed, Sakura. You could get your life snapped away from you, and it will be just that easily. You never know what we could experience as a team of Genin. We could have ran into a C ranked, A ranked, or B ranked mission. And this is why I'm telling Kakashi this. This is why I'm asking him to basically give us, well, asking Hiruzen to give us more D rank missions. I had to persuade Kakashi, but yes, he agreed to it nonetheless. So Sasuke would be hearing all this, and he would say, what is this total concentration constant? Ignoring that Sakura has a crush on him and everything. He's more astounded by Naruto. See, this girl has caught his eyes because not only was she a genius, but she's at the top of her class, but she managed to be above Naruto, like Sasuke. So yes, of course she would catch his eye. So with that being said, Naruto would explain that total concentration breathing is an advanced and extorted breathing technique that I developed when I was 6 years old. I came up with the technique to breathe and make myself stronger. It was something out of hesitation to get away from all the villagers staring, and sometimes I would get into fights with these bullies, and I wanted to make myself stronger to stand up to them and also to be able to just play pranks. Well, I used to play pranks a lot, sometimes. Anyway, the technique is where the user inhales the maximum amount of oxygen within a specific breath pattern to raise their physical and mental powers to their utmost limits. Given the fact that you haven't trained that much in your ninja life, most the fact that you are trying to be a fangirl, Asako would get an angry face by this, but Naruto would hold up her hand and say, I'm not finished. This technique will allow you to grow at an utmost level. You have good chakra control, so I don't see this being a problem for you. You just have to know to breathe perfectly. You have to know how to breathe. Naruto would demonstrate this technique to Sakura, and Sakura would see how Naruto is breathing in and out and gathering up much air. So which Naruto tells Sakura to stand up, and while she breathes in, she just... And in a blitz of speed, she's right behind Sakura and has a fist to her head, but she doesn't hit Sakura. And Sakura is shocked that Naruto was able to move this fast. I do have to apologize for some of you who might point this out in the comments below that I keep saying Naruto or Naruto. Basically, sorry about that. This is actually the first time that I've ever did a female Naruto what if. I remember back when I first started my channel that I did a Luffy, what if Luffy was a girl, but this time, I'm more equipped in my channel because back then I was just first starting off and that was like my first video. So yeah, this time I'm actually going to do something that's more suitable for the what if. I'm saying suitable, trying to make that word sound more classified or something like that. No, I'm just going to be messing up a little times until I get used to it because you guys are going to be seeing a lot of these. You're going to be seeing a lot of these because I still have Shinobu. I still got it. It's just so many waifus out there that can make Naruto look like, ooh, and you haven't even heard. I got a Kime too. That's another one. It's a lot of them. It's so many of them that I see. I don't understand why no what if YouTuber hasn't done this yet. It's so many good ones out there that I give so much gratitude, thanks for. Like you got a lot of good what if YouTubers out there, and I'm so shocked that they had never tackled this idea. It may be too much fan fiction-y for them, but it's not too fan fiction-y for we the Celestials who did What If Deku Was a Girl. Shout out to y'all. Anyway, so with that being said, Naruto would be constantly training Sakura, and Sakura's cherry blossom breathing, she would have started getting the handle of total concentration breathing. Now, Sakura would start growing fast. Now, as the weeks and months progress, well, it would have been 1 month, she would see that Sakura has progressed, like she's mastered total concentration breathing. Not mastered it, but she has a few more steps to go. So she's got the breathing down. Now with that, Sakura does the first form of her cherry blossom breathing. Now Sakura would be handed a wooden sword. She would actually have a real blade yet, so she would be handed a wooden sword. So with that, over the course as with the training, she did not necessarily want, for the reasons, she didn't necessarily want to hurt Sakura. So she gave her a wooden sword. You know. Anyway, so with that, Naruto goes over explaining what cherry blossom breathing is to Sakura, and that her, seeming as if she's signature to cherry blossoms, it more likely fits her character. And Naruto even compliments that she's named after her her favorite food items, Sakura emoji. And this is where Sakura, basically, she has the first form down. Now, the first form took her a few tries to do. And the first form is called Radiant Beauty of Cherry Blossoms. It is a defensive maneuver where one will, damn, that's a type, right? Temporarily cause the sight of one's Nichirin blade to blur into a dozen more after images by rapidly swaying one Nichirin blade like a pendulum. Or like a grandfather clock. So by vibrating the Nichirin blade at an extreme frequency, by doing so, one will make it difficult for even an impossible. Basically what this is Sakura has a sword, right? And it's basically a defensive maneuver to basically how she's holding her sword. It basically vibrates and it creates these after images looking like a grandfather clock swaying back and forth. To which it's more, the first form of this technique is more set to be a genjutsu than it is to be an attack. It is defensive as to throw off the opponent rather than to attack the opponent. So Sakura has mastered that form as it's most likely not an attack form, so it's most likely defensive. Now, the second form is what she's working on. It's called Honorable Shadow of Cherry Blossoms. Now, this is a variation of flower breathing, but it consists of the user a circle of rotational slashes to assault or defend oneself from one's opponent. And it also consists of temporarily causing the sight of one Nichirin blade to blur into a dozens of more after images by basically like doing the same thing. But basically, I'm going to explain this better. So what it is the second form, as she's using it, basically these cherry blossom like flower petals just come off her blade. But in this version, instead of being in Demon Slayer where it's just for visual effects, these cherry blossoms are actually coming off Sakura's blade as she's creating them with her chakra. And her chakra is creating this pinkish color to the cherry blossoms, giving it that unique visual effect. Now with that, don't keep in mind that these cherry blossoms are genjutsu based sometimes, but once they start to get developed in the forms that she's going in, these cherry blossoms can be dangerous, even cutting or basically poisoning sometimes. If Sakura goes down that route, which I might add a little bit of that in there, for a unique effect, so that she might get used to it, but it might be just a small amount. It's nothing too specific. So anyway, with that happening, Sakura is basically training into learning basically the second form. So let's go over to what Sasuke is doing. Now Sasuke is not watching them, and now as for the month going on, Sasuke used what Naruto was teaching Sasuke. Naruto was teaching Sakura. Oh God. Now Sasuke takes the teachings from what Naruto was teaching Sakura at the training field, and he starts to teach himself total concentration breathing. And sorry, my drink went down the wrong pipe. Jesus Christ. So, with that, Sasuke would be teaching himself total concentration breathing, but the boy would be trying to make himself leagues and leagues ahead of Naruto because he thinks Naruto doesn't probably know that if he can do this day, night, and, all throughout the day, even while he's asleep, this will be a huge accomplishment for him. So Sasuke is incredibly determined. So not only is Sasuke doing this, and Sasuke is already a prodigy, so it's going to affect some of that nature right here. So Sasuke does this, and he gets into he starts like learning total concentration breathing, and he starts doing total concentration constant at a few times. Sasuke ends up going through trial and error, but he starts to get used to it. It's not like he's going to pick it up, I'm not saying like he's going to pick it up, but overnight. But Sasuke starts to learn this stuff, and it takes him over a month and a half to basically get down total concentration breathing and total concentration constant. Now, with that, Sasuke did have a sword. Like he had a sword, basically a wooden sword, but he sits on the ground contemplating like what style of breathing would be best suited for him. Now he still has basically 3 more weeks to go with the training, as while they're doing D-rank missions. So with that being said, Sasuke comes up with the idea that he wants to be as fast as lightning. Now, while Sasuke is learning of thunder breathing, while he has his little 3 weeks to basically train himself, he comes up with the first form. Now, in this first form, Sasuke names it Thunderclap and Flash. And Sasuke then starts to basically evolve it. While he's training, he comes up with Sixfold. That as far as Sasuke goes, because that's when the whole thing is ended, when they are back into the third Hokage's office. Now, with that being said, Sasuke, while he was training, he learned Thunderclap and Flash, and he learned to upgrade it to the sixfold Thunderclap and Flash. And basically what this is that it's when you go sixfold and you go eightfold, it's just basically making you faster and faster, making your position, making you better at using the style. It's just an upgrade. So basically, if the first form of Thunderclap and Flash is the base form, sixfold is Super Saiyan, and eightfold is Super Saiyan 2, put it like that. I hope that explains it better because it's just basically one sword slash. That's all it is. It's a fast sword slash that comes at you. That's it. Now, with that, Sasuke is coming up with ideas of he's coming up with ideas. He already knows that he has sixfold, and he knows that he can push it to eighthfold, but it's strenuous to him, but he knows that he can do it. And he's know that he can do the eightfold, and he knows that he can do Godspeed. But if he does Godspeed, he might end up breaking his leg. So he needs to get stronger before he actually does something like that, because he doesn't want to basically be out-commissioned while his teammates is getting stronger than him. Now, with that being said, Sasuke also is thinking about what his second form should be like. He has to get a grasp over his lightning affinity. And this one, Sasuke's lightning affinity is going to be more stronger than his fire affinity. So with that being said, I explained that well. Now we're in the third Hokage's office. Now, when the third Hokage looks at Sakura, Naruto, and Sasuke, he noticed that all three of them bear swords at their waist. Kakashi is interested by this, and he even said that they took up sword training, so they've been most likely training these past 3 months to master their sword arts. And I kind of congratulate them by this, but I think it's time that they are well deserved for a higher ranked mission. And this is where Tazuna walks in, and the third Hokage would say, "I'm already giving you basically a C ranked mission. I seen what you guys were capable of. I seen what you guys were doing, and yeah, you are well deserved for a C ranked mission." So yeah, the Land of Waves arc begins. Now Tazuna would insult the group as he came in, but he would feel an ominous aura off of all three of them. All three of them bear swords in their hands. Well, not hands, but he notices that all three of them have swords at their waist. And every last one of them just has this intimidating aura about them. So with that, they all get their things and they head out for the Land of Waves. Now, with that being said, this is where this part right here gets very gruesome. Because, yeah, this is what happens. Now, as they're walking, Naruto appears by Sasuke, and she has her arms around him, and then she looks at him with a very cute face, to which Sasuke blushes by this, and she tells him, "I know you've been watching me. I know that you've been watching me and Sakura train lately. So what techniques have you mastered? Have you heard us talking about total concentration breathing? From what it looks like, you've mastered those techniques. And I can even go as far to say that you've mastered total concentration constant," to which Sakura would be shocked by. And she would say that, "I haven't even mastered that yet, and he did it." And this is what Sasuke would say, "I just had an ambition, and I wanted to be stronger, and I did what I did to basically push myself." You must have had a lot of trial and error. That's not an easy technique to master like that. You must have been pushing yourself extremely hard, Sasuke. That's not too good for your body, but it looked like at the end of the day, it bared good results. Anyway, I wonder, what's your breathing style? What's a style that you've managed to basically create for yourself? And this one is what Sasuke would say, "My style is thunder breathing." This is basically something I created for myself to basically because I'm more keen to thunder. Or you just want to be faster than me so you can beat me in the terms of speed. Sasuke would smirk to this, and he would even congratulate Naruto. Like we would say, Naruto, you're a very intellectual human being. You're very intellectual for your own good. It can also be a curse, or it can also prove to be very good for you. But it's good that you found that out. And this is where Naruto would just put on a pouting face and say, "Why didn't you just come train with me and Sakura? You could have been very good help instead of snooping around like a pervert." And Sasuke would just have a red face by this and say, "I'm not a pervert." And Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke would just be conversing with each other as Kakashi is reading his book and Tazuna is just annoyed by the bickering. This is where Naruto would see a puddle on the ground and she would look up to the sky and say, well, it's not raining. Did it just get done raining? She shrugs her shoulders and walks right past the puddle as if they're ignoring it, but Kakashi knows something is wrong with it. So in the midst, when Kakashi is attacked by the two Chunin brothers, this is where Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke have the two Chunin brothers on the ground already with their swords pointing at them. Naruto's basically sword is just wrapped around the guy like a whip, like snake, like a snake is coiling around them. And she says, if I pull or extend my blade out, if I yank my blade back, you will be shredded into pieces. And this is where Sasuke has lightning radiating over his blade, and Sakura has these flower-like petals surrounding her. Both of them, well, all three of them, have these menacing auras about them. Their eyes are cold. Even with Naruto, she says, I will not be nice to anyone who hurts my friends. And this is where the Chunin brothers explain that they're here for Tazuna. They're here for the bridge builder. They're here to kill him. Now, this is where Naruto would say, okay. So she basically just knocks out both of the Chunin brothers and ties them up. And she goes to Tazuna and says, this has to be a higher ranked mission. This cannot be a lower ranked mission. It doesn't even qualify for a lower ranked mission. And then she puts her finger on her chin and she makes this like cute face while she's thinking. And Tazuna just blushes by this, saying, this little girl is so cute. And she says, oh, I remember back when I was raising my daughter, how cute she was like this. And she says, then Tazuna looks at her and she says, young lady, what are you doing? And she says, hold on, I'm thinking. And this is where she looks at Tazuna with her green eyes, and she's saying, if I were to guess, this has to be like an A-ranked mission. It's not an S-rank because it's not that dangerous, and I don't think we would have took out them Chunin brothers if this was an S-ranked mission. So this has to be somewhere around an A-ranked or lower than that, a B-ranked mission. Either way, we've got basically rewarded with this mission because we're well equipped for it. It wasn't easy. It wasn't that hard for us to take these demon brothers out. I'm making so many mistakes in this one video. Damn. Anyway, so as they journey on, they see that this mist starts to like whirl in. And all of a sudden, Naruto tells the team to duck. And as they duck, they see someone land on the blade as it clunks into a tree. And this is where Kakashi and Zabuza get into their whole monologue together with saying, Zabuza Mamochi, the rogue nin of the Mist Village. And this is where, well, Zabuza looks at Kakashi and says, Kakashi Hatake. And Naruto would be saying, so this guy is after you too, I would guess. And Tazuna would just be in fear. And this is where Sasuke would say, well, guess it's time to show off what I can do. Sakura would be saying the same thing too. And the both of them would unsheathe their blades. Now, Sakura's blade would have a pinkish color to it, just like Naruto's would, seeming as if her flowers are pink. Now, with that, Sasuke's blade would have more of an electrifying thing to it, just like Zenitsu's sword. So anyway, Zabuza would feel the imitating bloodlust off of these three, but then he would be shocked, dumbfounded, and angered by what they're doing next. Sakura, Sasuke, and Naruto would then do rock, paper, scissors to see who gets to fight Zabuza. And Zabuza would be offended by this. Are you kids taking me for a joke? And they would look at him and say, no, we're not taking you for a joke. Sasuke, actually, we're doing this to see who gets to fight you because obviously we're not, well, in the right way to basically be in a team formation. No, it's just more personal than that. We just want to fight you individually to test our skills. Sasuke tried to explain it in the best way he could to not sound too demanding or something like that, but the truth is they just want to test their skills against a true swordsman. And as they do it, well, guess who wins? It happens to be Sakura. Sakura ends up winning with Sasuke and Naruto basically turning away. Sasuke chose rock, to which Naruto chose scissors, and to which, basically, I don't understand rock, paper, scissors. Y'all basically finna correct me saying, so how did Sakura win though? So she just won. So with that being said, Sakura stands up and Kakashi puts his hand out in front of her. But in a blitz motion, Sakura's right from where Kakashi was standing. right from where Kakashi was standing. And Sakura breathes out. Sakura uses her cherry blossom breathing against Zabuza, to which Zabuza attacks her back, and both of them are going at it all over the place, and Kakashi is seeing this, how fast they're going, but Naruto and Sasuke is basically having a sweat by this, because Naruto might have miscalculated by this. She might have said, well, I guess cherry blossom breathing is not suited for her. It seems like it's too much unique. She moves too much like water. I guess I chose the wrong technique for Sakura to master. And to which Sakura would say that she can't basically keep up with Zabuza with using this rough style, as it doesn't seem to be having much attack power. And she's only basically learned the first two forms because she can go further. But Sakura then says that this is not suited for her. She can't even come close to, basically, it took her a while just to master the first form. And Naruto interjects saying that it's gonna take a lot to learn, but even Zenitsu only knows the first form. But she then says that this style, when she uses it, it's not suited for her blade. But she still likes the effects that the cherry blossoms have. So she's going to use more of that in her genjutsu. But for her breathing style, it's more suited to like water as her movement. Sakura is not like a chop type person. Only when Naruto is like threatened or anything happens to her, she steps up to that world. But this is where Sakura comes up with something and she says, I have to come up with my own. And this is where Sakura then says out of her mouth, water breathing, first form, water surface slash, as she cuts Zabuza across the chest, drawing out blood. Now, when Sakura does this, her movements was fluid. Her movements was perfectly precise. And she says, this style right here, it just naturally suits me. Due to all her training, Sakura has known to basically came up with the first two forms of water breathing in her very first attempt. Now with that, Sakura then says the second form. As Zabuza then drop kicks her into the air, she coughs up air and coughs up a lot of spit as she grabs her sword and basically rotates her body in the air and says, second form, water wheel, as she's launching towards Zabuza, and in the midst, Zabuza cleaned his sword with hers, and the both of them get into another sword fight with each other. And this is where she uses the first form again, and then this time, she ends up cutting Zabuza on the shoulder blade with a deep cut. And Zabuza kneels on the ground with this wound, clenching his shoulder, looking at Sakura with anger in his eyes, to which Sakura says she's breathing heavily, as this switching between breathing styles is incredibly taxing on the body, and she's surprising that she's done it. She won't basically negate cherry blossom breathing, but it's basically not suited for her fighting style. It's not about she just can't use cherry blossom breathing very efficiently. It's not to her. Zabuza even proved that, as he basically cut Sakura across the chest too. Sakura is bleeding, and also she has a cut on her shoulder and a cut on her left leg. Now, while Zabuza is basically bleeding, he stands back up and looks at Sakura while the blood is dripping down on the ground, and he grips his sword, and then he rushes at her with this aura of a demon behind him. This is where Sakura is breathing heavily, but then she strains herself as you see the veins come on Sakura's face as she clenches her sword very tightly, and then she says, third form, flowing dance. Now, Sakura flows around Zabuza in a flowing-like pattern as she's gripping her sword very tightly. And as she's flowing around him, she's doing it very precise, as if she's dancing around Zabuza. And this is very similar to basically taking inspiration from Naruto's ballerina-type dancing performance when she was fighting Kakashi during the bell test. Naruto would be ecstatic by this, and she would say that, Sakura, you're something incredible. You came up with the first three forms of a new style of breathing. I'm shocked. Now, Sasuke would be on the back foot by this. He's also shocked and mesmerized that Sakura has came up with the first three forms of her breathing style, while he's only basically is stuck on her first form and is only thinking about what the second form should be. Now, this is where Sakura is basically cutting Zabuza all over his body as Zabuza screams out in pain. Sakura even breaks his sword, to which Zabuza basically backs up from Sakura and he's breathing heavily. Now, Sakura is basically shaking from the immense strain that she is, so she kneeled on the ground, to which Naruto and Sasuke and Kakashi would rush to her side with them saying, "Is she okay? What's going on? Are you all right?" Now, keep in mind, they didn't take their ties off Tazuna because Tazuna is right there with them because Tazuna was scared for the girl's sake too. Sakura is breathing heavily as she's done too much. Basically, she went way past her stamina threshold. If you thought Tanjiro was on the ground breathing heavily, coughing up, Sakura is basically worse than that because not only did she go past her stamina threshold, she used 3 forms, pushing herself to the maximum limit, and not only using the water breathing form, she was using a different breathing style to fight Zabuza at first, and switching to another breathing style was taxing on the body at that. So yeah, Sakura is having a hard time breathing right now, and then until she just falls unconscious. Now this is where Naruto would tell them that she's gonna be alright. She's just basically overexerted herself. She pushed herself too hard. So she's gonna be alright. She's just gonna be asleep for the next 2 days. She's not gonna be able to wake up. She needs rest. Her body needs rest. This is where the team just looks at Zabuza. And this is where Zabuza stands back up. And he puts blood on his sword, to which the sword heals. And Zabuza would say, "That girl, I'm gonna kill her." And this is where Zabuza is getting ready to rush at the team again, to which Naruto, Sasuke, and Kakashi gets in a battle forms. They basically get into a battle stance. And then they get into a fist battle with Zabuza. And, Kakashi gets into a fist battle with Zabuza. But then Naruto and Sasuke is right there by Zabuza's side, as both of them use their Setsu breathing styles and attack Zabuza, with Naruto's whip-like katana basically gashing at Zabuza's leg and basically cutting him across the back, to which Sasuke would use the first form, Thunderclap and Flash. And Zabuza would barely dodge that attack. If it wasn't for his sword being in his hand and parrying Sasuke's attack, he barely did that. And in the long run, his sword was broken again. To which Sasuke would just tiss by this and say, "You know that's not going to happen again, right? Your sword saved your life, but you don't have a sword to save your life this time. This time." Sasuke has electricity radiating over his sword and says, "This time, you will die from this attack." To which 2 Senbon fly into Zabuza's neck and he falls to the ground. To which this Hunter-nin would come out and she would say, "Thank you. I've been looking for Zabuza for a long time. Thank you." And Sasuke and Naruto senses something odd about this guy, that he has something special about him. And Haku would take Zabuza away, even in a form like Kakashi in form, that's a Hunter-nin, that they get rid of the ninja on the spot. But something didn't sit past him as why they need to take the body of something, but he just pushes it past that they need to focus more on Sakura and getting to the Land of Waves. So they would get to the Land of Waves, and once they get there, they would relax, eat food, and this is where Inari would come out. I'm going to have this come on basically way further. Inari would come out and he would tell them that they're all going to die, but this is where Naruto would give him a serious look, and Inari would be shooken by this because the look is something that his mother usually gives him. But she would have a hand on Inari's head and she would tell them that, "You just watch, Inari. I'm going to show you that we're going to save everybody here. We're going to protect each and every one of you guys here." Inari would look at Naruto as a hero, but his eyes would be filled with tears. And the boy would just say, "Whatever," and walk away. To which Naruto would smile by this, and this is where everything would just play out normal up until the time Sakura wakes up and they start their training. Now, this is the part where the team, I'm going to skip past this part right here because it really is irrelevant, because there's really nothing going on that much with the whole thing. But Naruto would meet Haku in the woods and they would have their whole usual conversation. But it wouldn't be that shocking because this time Naruto is a girl and Haku is a boy. To which Haku only says when she turned around, "I'm not a girl, I'm a boy, by the way." Now, Naruto would be shocked by this, but Haku would even say something else that Naruto would just blush by, and she would say, Haku would say, "You're very pretty, by the way, Naruto." And she would walk away. Now with that, this is where I'm ending part 2 to What If Naruto was Mitsuri Reincarnation. Now, this is what I'm going to say right here. If you guys want a part 3 to this series, I need 60 likes on the video. If you get to 60 likes, I promise you, you will see part 3. And you would like to hit that like goal because part 3 is going to be very, very interesting. Because not only is we going to cover the tuning exams and the rest of the Land of Waves, but we're also going to get to the part to where Lady Tsunade and Naruto meet. Probably. I'm not going to make any promises to y'all. But without any further ado, y'all have a good day, a good night, and plus ultra. Good night, guys.
君の虜になってしまう